by Steve North from our region. Steve is an NEC member and he's also the branch secretary of Salford City branch. Steve, thank you very much for taking the time to come to address the meeting. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Lois, and thank you for inviting me and inviting me back. You know, that's a particular privilege, isn't it, when you go somewhere once and people want you to come again, so hopefully I won't disappoint. I shouldn't need the microphone, it's probably a good thing that I've not got one if you can hear the volume of my voice. But yeah, just thank you for inviting me to your AGM. It's fantastic to see such a good turnout and obviously a lot of people as well joining online. Just to say, I've been to a few AGMs already this year. You're not the only branch experiencing technical difficulties. We certainly did in Salford. This is the way of the world now, isn't it? It brings wonderful advantages, but I've seen the nerves and the perspiration going down Dave's forehead in the last hour. I can say as a fellow branch secretary, it does cause a degree of stress as well. But, so well done, because it's a really good turnout for what I know to be a really good and really active branch. And I think that's typified by Debbie, who just spoke before me, so congratulations from me and from everyone in Salford on your victory in the college. You know, these things, they get around, we hear about them in other branches, we hear about them throughout the region, and they genuinely inspire us to keep fighting with the challenges that we face. Now, Salford and Wirral share some similarities, share some differences as well. Some of the similarities we face, I mean, I was looking through the statistics earlier on before I set off this morning. There are 316 local authority areas in the country, and Salford is currently the 24th most deprived. Wirral is currently the 38th most deprived. So we're both quite near the bottom of that deprivation index. Like Wirral, Salford, as you might not expect, people who are aware of Salford have an image of Salford that it's essentially just tower blocks and terraced housing, but actually it's quite a green city, and we do have some quite affluent parts of it as well, as you do here in the Wirral. But it's principally, well, overwhelmingly in the case of Salford, a Labour council, Labour MPs. So that's the kind of political context that we work in Salford, and I know again that's one of the similarities we share with you over in Wirral. Before I talk a bit more about my branch, a little bit about me, not too much I promise. So I've been an elected branch secretary now for 12 years on full-time release. Prior to that, I was a care worker in mental health services, and I actually started my working life in local government in Sure Start, which was a fantastic introduction to me as to the power of local government and the power of public services in lifting people out of poverty and actually giving people hope and aspiration. And it's tragic that services like Sure Start have been kind of sacrificed on the altar of Tory austerity for the last 12 years, and we fought desperate battles in Salford, as I know you have in Wirral and continue to do so, to protect the public services that we rely upon for our jobs. But I live in Salford, so I live there as well as working there. A lot of you, I'm sure, live in Wirral as well as working with the council. So you experience it at both ends, and you see in your daily lives and the lives of your families and your friends what it means to lose those services that people rely upon. But what you have here in Wirral is a branch and a branch leadership that doesn't just simply say, well, you know, that's a shame, but what can we do? We've just got to make the best of it. You have a branch that is willing to fight back, that is willing not only to fight defensive battles to protect what you have, but that is willing to fight offensive battles to ensure that you get more than you already have. And I've seen some fantastic examples. I think one of the things we do share as branches is a very strong passion for supporting people working in social care. And I've seen the victories that you've had in Wirral in fighting and winning the living wage for care workers and beyond during the pandemic. That's something that we were able to do in Salford as well, and we fight hard to develop recognition agreements and bring more and more low-paid workers into the union, because we know the trade union struggle is the only way that ultimately we can protect working class people. As I say, I've been in this role for nearly 12 years now. Essentially our experience of austerity in Salford, and I was elected into this role just after the Condemn Coalition was elected. So straight into the frying pan basically, of having to deal with the cuts and everything else that came with it. And I've said we have a Labour authority, and that's true. Salford's been a Labour dominated council for, well, ever since it's existed as a local authority area. But there's the Labour Party and there's the Labour Party, isn't there? Let's be honest. And for the first 5 years of that, we had a Labour leadership within the council who had no intention of challenging the government. who had no intention of trying to protect the workforce, who saw the unions as nothing more than an obstacle. And we had to fight a daily battle, often on a very personal level, I'll be honest with you, against that council leadership and against MPs at the time, like some of you might remember Hazel Blaze, one of the Blairite MPs who was caught with a hand in the till and the expenses. These were the people we had to deal with in Salford at that time. I'm proud to say that as a union, we stood up to those people, we overcame those people, we got rid of those people. And we now have a political leadership in Salford, which, you know, we often still have disagreements on, but who understand the fundamental role of the trade union in protecting services. And that, I suppose, culminated in a campaign that we had a few years ago where 5 of our local authority day nurseries in Salford were threatened with closure. And the council had a stark choice. It could either say, well, they're going to close because the government isn't putting enough money in, and that's not our fault, so therefore it is what it is. Or we can stand up to the government, we can demand the resources back, and we stand a chance of keeping those nurseries open. And we were very clear as a trade union that we expected them to do the latter. We didn't expect them to simply roll over and close these nurseries in a service, as I said, that I'd started my working life in Salford in. We fought a campaign initially against the council, mobilising thousands of people in the city to come behind us in the biggest campaign it had seen in decades. And it got to a point whereby our elected mayor, Paul Dennett, he'd only been in a few months, he'd talked all the right talk, he'd want to work with the unions, I believe in fighting for services. Well, immediately he was put in the spotlight, what will you do? And to his credit, he stood with us. He stood with us, we went to government together, we went down to London together, we lobbied and we argued and we met with Tory ministers, and we managed to get a solution. Because what we had was a local authority leadership that was willing to stand with unions and stand with communities against them. And that's put us in good stead for the relationship we've got now. We're now in a position in Salford whereby we're actively trying to recover a lot of the ground we lost in those first 5 years. We're recruiting again. We've just done a local pay review where we've got the council to put an additional £6 million into pay, which means that all of our members in our branch, through a combination of last year's NJC award and the local pay review, will receive inflationary pay increases based on what inflation has been over the last 12 months. We've had to fight for that, but to their credit, the council have worked with us on that. We are starting to rebuild our city, but we're doing it in a place of absolute hostility from a government that does not only not care about the communities that we live in, but wants to smash the main defence that we have, which is ourselves, which is trade unions. And we can see that in the strike bill, we can see that in their unwillingness to even negotiate over pay with the unions that are on strike at the moment. And this is a time when we have to show maximum solidarity with each other. I saw those Unite workers when I was driving across, I presume it was them anyway, coming out of the tunnel when I was driving across earlier, and bid my horn and wished them well. The other morning I was on a picket line, Unison members at Manchester Met University, been out with, as I'm sure a lot of you have, been out with the rail workers, communication workers union, you know, a number of workers. We've stood with them because we have to stand together, because that's the only way, that is the only way we're going to preserve, well, not only are we going to win on the immediate issues like pay, but we're also going to preserve our position of strength and grow our position of strength as trade unions, because that's what this country needs. It's particularly what young people need. I've got 2 young boys, they're in primary school at the moment, and you shudder sometimes when you think of what the world could be. We are that line of defence, but we are at our best when we don't just see ourselves as a line of defence, when we see ourselves fighting productive battles, winning stronger pay increases, growing recognition, bringing more people into the unions, linking up with communities. One of the things we've got a big battle at the moment in Salford is we're fighting for the building of council housing, not social housing controlled by housing associations, council housing controlled by the public sector. We're starting to see inroads in that, but that's vital where I live. Now, coming on to the NEC, I'm really proud to represent this region, and a very grateful thank you to have the nomination of your branch to stand again in the NEC elections again this year. Because I believe that Unison at a national level needs to emulate some of the things that we see in branches like yours, and that we've seen in a region like ours, when we've not been shy in retiring, when we've said now is the time to stand up, when we've seen the union not as an insurance policy that you sign up to and hope we'll never need, but as something that you engage with, that brings us together in a vehicle of collective strength, where unity is our strength and we can come together and demand more. That's what we need to see at this union at every level. We've seen great examples of that across the Northwest. But we need the union's resources going into building disputes teams in every region and nationally, so we're on the front foot, into organising campaigns, bringing workers together, offering the benefits of trade unionism to people like social care workers, as is seen in your branch in Wirral and as we've done in Salford. That's what the vision has to be. And I'm proud to be part of an NEC that's doubled strike pay and brought in from day one of people taking industrial action. Because if we can't deliver effective strike action, we're fighting with one hand tied behind our back. I'm proud of an NEC that's looking at the communications of the union so that it's not presenting itself as an insurance policy, but it's presenting itself as an organisation for collective struggle. I'm proud of an NEC that's looking at the legal services that we provide, because all too often branches are getting told no when members need support at difficult times, and we're actually reviewing that and overhauling it to make sure that it works for you. But there is no doubt there is a hell of a lot more to do. We need to move our union away from essentially from the last 30 years in an organisation that's been built on a servicing model of servicing members, of saying join for £2 whatever a month. You know, very few people pay that little anyway. It's false advertising if you ask me. And we'll do everything for you in your time of crisis. To an organisation that involves workers, that proactively seeks out disputes, that stands up to the government, that says to the Labour Party, if you're not prepared to fight with us and commit to smashing the laws that hold us back, then why should we give you another penny of our members' money? We need to be confident, we need to be assertive. When I look at branches like Wirral, that's what I see. That's what we try and do in Salford. That's what we're trying to build right across this union. So I'm confident and hopeful that going forwards, if we have that spirit and we have that approach and we harness the energy in meetings like this and the victories like you've just had in Wirral College, we can deliver the union everybody needs, particularly those who are struggling at the moment, struggling to feed the family, struggling to pay the heating bills, not knowing how they're going to meet the bills the following month. This union has to be there for those people, but not as a charity. We'll provide that support through There For You and other functions when it's needed, but we're not a charity, we're a trade union. We believe in collective strength and in solidarity. And if we come together, we have 1.3 million members. We can make a huge difference. We've seen the power of the unions grow over the last 12 months. I was at Enough is Enough rally in Manchester Cathedral a couple of months ago. Thousands of people inside, thousands of people outside. People who'd never been to anything like that before. And I know that because they were telling me. And I could hear them talking to each other. Young people, confident, inspired, listening to some of the people, some of the leaders who come to the fore over the last 12 months. We as a union, we have to join that way of fighting back. We have to be on the front foot. We have to work with other unions and organisations that want to do the same. And that's the vision we need. That's what we need to aspire to. So, and you are playing your part as a branch. So I'll close my remarks there. I'll thank you again for inviting me to come over. I'm happy to come over here anytime. And any of you are more than happy to come over to Salford anytime you want as well. We build solidarity amongst each other. We're stronger together. Keep doing what you're doing because you've got a fantastic branch that's doing a great job. And the last thing I'll say, and I always say this when I speak at an AGM, to the stewards and the officers in the room, thank you. Because you're taking on a job for no extra money, more time, more responsibility, on top of day jobs that are harder than they've ever been because of job cuts and increased demand from working class communities who are struggling. But you're still making the time to stand up for your colleagues, to stand up for the services that you're working. And it's often a thankless task. I know that. I did it for many years before I was a branch secretary. So be proud of what you're doing. And if you're not currently a steward or a rep and you don't have a workplace, then I'd encourage you to get involved. Because while it is often a thankless and difficult task, it's the most rewarding thing you'll ever do. It's the greatest education you'll ever have. It's taught me more than anything I ever learned in school. And it'll give you the confidence in yourself and in your colleagues and your brothers and sisters to fight together. So good luck. Thank you. And yeah, good luck with the rest of your AGM in the next 12 months.